Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts Jeff Mack, Newmark, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, and Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer. And Jeffrey, can you give us a rundown on who we have on the show today, please?
Sure. We have a great show, Herb. We have Ken Davies, founder and CEO of City Fitness, Mike Weber, CEO and founder of Frutero, Larry Stuardi, president and CEO of MRA Group, and Kathy Morgan, president of Astm International.
Let's get to know our first guest, Ken Davies, founder and CEO of City Fitness. Ken, what is City Fitness? What makes City Fitness special?
City Fitness is 6 fitness clubs, full-service fitness clubs in Philadelphia, and we have approximately 16,000 members.
Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Wayne, Pennsylvania, suburb of Philadelphia, and I am the oldest of 3 children.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing 8 to 14 years old? What kind of stuff were you up to?
Looking back then, I was out playing with friends, help support the family.
Give me that again. You were doing what? Helping support the family?
Correct. My family was low middle class, and I was the oldest and felt the responsibility, and also was told the responsibility to help bring in some money for the family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jeffrey.
So Ken, let's pursue that a little bit more. What were mom and dad doing when you were growing up? What was your dad's job? What was mom doing?
My dad's job, he worked in manufacturing. He started as a machinist and then became a supervisor. My mom was a merchandiser at Kmart and became a supervisor. Mm-hmm.
The message about helping to support the family, where did that message come from? Mom, dad?
It resonated from my father. He said, as the oldest, I had a responsibility to help to support the family.
Uh-huh. And how does that impact building this organization, City Fitness, where you learned that at an early age?
Well, I think if you're the leader and you start a business, you are responsible for your staff and for your members, in my case, at City Fitness. And I feel that responsibility. And I think that's something that was on to me at a young age.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
So Ken, 10 to 11, how'd you get to school?
So I was lucky enough that I didn't have to take the bus. I could walk to school.
And when you passed on that walk someplace that had a real impact on your entrepreneurial life, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize it until it started to work, but I used to walk by a 5 and dime shop, and I was able to, I would grab some candy and bring it to school.
And so how did your bringing some candy for you to eat to school lead you down an entrepreneurial path?
Well, I started getting a little upset that I would bring candy to school and all my friends would eat it and I wouldn't get to have the candy that I bought and brought. So I started to bring more in, and I remember even down to my last pack, and someone's like, I'll give you $5 for it. And I go, really? It's $1 pack of gum. And so I started to buy more candy and start to sell it at school.
So how did you figure out how much to buy and like what flavors to bring in, and like how did you figure out how to work all of that?
It was funny. It became supply and demand. Pricing wise, I found out that you're the one with the candy. You could set the price. And also flavors, I started to, as things progressed, I started to take a list. People would give me their want, and I would make a list and have a shopping list to bring to school. And then I would sell it. I'd always have the last 2 packs that would sell for a premium.
So you were already thinking about your customers and what they wanted when you were like 10 years old?
Yeah, I guess so. Yep, I was.
Mm-hmm. So does that experience, tell me, how does that experience of running your in-school candy store at 10 and 11 years old, what's that got to do with running City Fitness?
Well, I think actually it has a lot to do with it. I mean, I really pride myself with our organization to really try to figure out what our members want and need. And our goal then is to provide that on an ongoing basis. And that's how I kind of did it with the candy. I found out what they wanted, what kind of candy they wanted. And my job was to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
Ken, you told us you played baseball and football a lot as a young boy. Were they organized sports or were they pickup games?
They're both. I just enjoyed sports. I love the camaraderie with other people. And I just love the competition.
Yeah, you told me you really like football. What did you like about football?
What I loved about football was the action. Baseball was great, but football's constant action. Also the popularity of it. We got a lot more people in the stands. But what I liked about it was the physicality of it and the constant action.
Yeah, you mentioned it was pretty important to be part of a team. What did you mean by that?
I love being part of a team. I love collaborating with others. I loved being part of something bigger than myself. And when you're playing a sport, you're just one cog in the wheel. And that's what I found truly attractive about team sports.
Understood. But in fitness, it's a solo activity, right? Isn't it just one-on-one stuff, or is the concept of team important when you run City Fitness?
Team is important on both sides of what I do. Team's very important for our staff and our team. Obviously, we work together in conjunction. There's no silos. Our job is to work with one another to provide the best experience to our members. And then on the members side, it's not one-on-one. What we found over the years is people love the camaraderie. They love the competition. They love the accountability of working with others. That's what makes City Fitness so special. We really built a deep City Fitness community that supports one another.
So I find
that's what helps.
I find it fascinating because when you talk about fitness, you talk about it as though it's a purpose and passion of yours. And you always mention members and staff. So it really feels like you want fitness for the whole community. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we actually call it community fitness. And I want everybody to, be their best. And I know fitness is one part of feeling and performing to your best. That's something that we strive for.
So you're like the master father of everybody. You just want everybody being their best. You're like the master coach.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, who was your coach?
So my coach, it started out with my father, and then it really was the coaches that I played for in the teams. I just listened to them. They mentored me. I just loved that role, and I just listened to them. I absorbed what they told me.
You loved what role?
I love the role being part of a team and what my part of the team was. And I wanted to do that to the best of my ability. And, and I would work harder than any.
So you mentioned that you really love growing people. You love growing your team and you're growing your members. That really hit me. I mean, it wasn't about the money. It really is who you are, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do what you love and you really work towards it, money can come. But what drives me every day is watching my staff, my team members grow, and then also my members grow in their fitness journeys. When I get feedback from members or staff and how much City Fitness has meant to them, that's worth more than money. That's what kind of drives you every day. You could do other things for money, but this here where you're actually affecting people's lives and where they're going to go in their future or how they feel physically and mentally is such a great honor.
Ken, do you work out in your own gyms?
I absolutely work out in my own gyms. Sometimes it's hard to work out in my gyms because I get a lot of feedback, positive and things that we can improve. But yeah, I love our gyms and I love being around our people.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, do people leave you alone or do they come up to you? And how does that make you feel? Do you prefer that they bug you and you know what's going on? Or do you prefer your kind of solitude when you're working out?
At first I was like, man, I go in there for an hour workout. I'm there for 3 hours. It's not very efficient time, but I'll tell you, I get the energy when I leave the gym, and not just from the workout, which gives me energy. It's when I talk to our staff and they're able to talk to me, or members come up to thank me or, offer some suggestions. I leave so energized, and it just because I know what we're doing is right and it's impacting people.
Jeffrey?
I was just going to say, you have some of the members that have come into the gym and that it's changed their lives, mostly from a physical fitness standpoint. I think, how does it make you feel when you see someone who's really you've impacted their life in a positive way?
It's emotional. I mean, listen, there's been tears shed when I've talked to some people and they've given me their stories. And I think, it's something that, it's empowering as well, that you have that ability to help people change their lives that way. We've also had people get married from meeting each other at the gym. So that's pretty powerful too.
What is the website address, Ken, for City Fitness? cityfitnessphilly.com. Let me have that again.
City Fitness Philly, PHILLY.com.
We've been speaking with Ken Davies, founder and CEO of City Fitness here on Executive Leaders Radio. It sounds like because of the size you've been able to build this business, it sounds like, people are getting married as well as working out. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Mike Weber, CEO and co-founder of Frutero. Mike, what is Frutero? What are you guys doing?
Frutero is a tropical fruit ice cream company. We make pints of super creamy fruit ice cream like passion fruit, mango, and guava. We launched last year at Whole Foods and GoPuff around Philly, and we're expanding nationwide. And
where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. I have one older sister who's 5 years older than me.
And 8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you up to as a kid? What were you doing as a kid?
I spent my summers sailing and hiking in the Adirondacks. I was a big cyclist and also playing drums in the marching band and competing.
Jeffrey?
Well, Mike, your company is a very unique idea and it's a unique product. Tell us about your partner and the visit to India and where the idea came from.
Yeah, I met my partner on the first day of my MBA at Wharton. We were actually assigned to sit next to each other. He grew up in India, and in 2019, I was taking a trip there. He recommended I try this amazing ice cream while I was there. That's all tropical fruits. And actually, my first day, I landed at the airport, went straight to the ice cream shop, tried it. I thought it was just amazing and recognized there was nothing like this passion fruit mango ice cream in the U.S. And that's why we wanted to start it.
And you said tasting is believing. So how did the idea of just the vision, where did the vision come from, and how did what was your experience with visions, growing up?
Yeah, initially the vision was actually just to bring this product to, we thought Indian Americans and maybe a few folks like me in the US would like it, but very quickly realized folks love tropical fruits no matter where you're from, and it really connects people to these tropical regions. For some people, they'll say, oh, it reminds me just of growing up in Colombia, or people say, oh, this guava reminds me just of this Hawaiian vacation that I had.
Frank?
So, Mike, you had a very active and fun childhood. I'm guessing your parents never really let you get bored. Tell me about them. What did mom do for a living, and how would you describe her?
Yep. So my mom worked for Verizon, and then when she retired, she became the president of a Jewish fundraising organization.
Okay, what do you take from mom?
I think really giving back to the community in a very humble way.
Okay. How about dad? What did dad do for a living?
My father is an ophthalmologist. He has a solo practice. He employs 4 people.
And is it a big town, small town that he serves?
It's a medium-sized town. There's 100,000 people, And over his career, he's seen over 20,000 patients.
So everybody in the community knew and respected your dad and knew your family. Is that right?
Everybody knows my dad. Anytime we go to synagogue or to Home Depot, we're always stopped by one of his patients, thanking him for really giving them their sight back.
How did that make you feel? Everybody held your dad and your family in high esteem. How did that make you feel growing up?
Well, I always really wanted to have that positive impact on my community. During college, I was a biology major, and I thought I would go pre-med. But now I think with Frutero, we also make an impact on people. We will get calls from people saying how Frutero just brings back memories of maybe their mother, or one person's had a trip to Venezuela with his mother, and then she's passed away. But when they were there, they had these fruits, and we bring back those memories.
So it sounds like you had an interest in medicine, but at some point your entrepreneurial spirit took over, and now your medicine is delivering ice cream.
That's right. But my wife is a doctor, so the Weber's family still has medicine.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Mike, you told us you like sailing, cycling, and drumming. Those all strike me as highly individualistic, non-team things. Am I reading you right?
These are actually really team sports. Sailing was 3 people in the boat. Drumline was I had 20 people on my team there.
And so it is a team sport. So what was your role on the teams?
So in both of those sports, I worked my way up to captain. Sailboat, I was running the boat, and the drumline, I was running the drumline.
So, and what did you do as captain that made you special?
Really, the important thing for me was team development. With a drumline, everyone gets heard, whether they're the best or the worst. And I would work with all of our teammates to make sure that we sounded good together as a whole.
What does that making sure everyone is heard have to do with running Frutero?
Well, I think in a business with your team, everybody has a lot to contribute, and you need to work to get the best out of everyone and figure out where can you place them so that they excel.
And you know, it kind of sounds like the glory being the captain and getting everybody to excel, but you're not just about that, right? Because you told us, how young were you when you biked across the country?
I was 13 when I biked across country.
And was that like a luxurious trip where like everything was easy?
No, that was a grind. It was during the summer. I think most days were over 95 degrees. And tell me so was that a group? What size was the group? Yep. There were 10 of us that biked.
And what was your role within those 10 people?
I was one of the team members. We were really all equal on that squad.
And you told us something about you being responsible for like 15 bikes or something. What was that?
Well, you know, whenever I was having a hard day, I was always willing to step up and take the weight from them. We were carrying all of our own weights on bags on the back of our bikes. So there's one funny picture where I have 2 other bags on the back of my bike and then someone's half of a bike on my bike.
Well, why were you willing to do that? In the middle of this long, hot trip across the country, biking every day, why were you willing to carry someone else's stuff?
Well, look, we were all going to get to the Pacific Ocean at the same time. And everyone really needed to do what they had to do to get the team there. I was in very good shape on that trip, and I was more than happy to carry the weight of others.
What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays with Frutero?
Well, I think in business, sometimes you carry weight for others, and sometimes they carry weight for you. For a long time, it was just my partner and I on the team, and sometimes he was really excelling, carrying a lot of weight, and then sometimes I'd be excelling and carrying a lot of weight. And you need to respect what the other person can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Are you more like your mom or your dad?
I think I'm a blend of both.
What do you mean? What do you got from mom that you're bringing to work every day? And how about dad?
Well, I think for mom, we really do try to give back at Frutero, though we might not talk about it too much. At the beginning of COVID, we wanted to give back, so we donated about 2 pallets of ice cream to healthcare workers all over Philadelphia across about 9 hospitals.
Mm-hmm. That's when you're starting the business. You didn't have a lot of money. You did that anyway?
Yes, and we were driving that in the back of my Ford Focus, so it was many trips of ice cream.
Wow. Boy, you really are giving back. And I guess from your dad, you really wanted to have an impact. You really had you saw everybody had a lot of respect for your dad. You wanted to develop the same?
Yeah, absolutely. And my dad started his practice from nothing. And I think he really sacrificed a lot to build the business. And I've done the same here. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. You think mom and dad are surprised you ended up doing what you're doing?
They might be surprised that I'm in ice cream, but not surprised that I started my own business. I've always done somewhat unusual things, whether biking across the country or after college, I built a boat. I just love having those long-term goals and just being obsessive over accomplishing that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting,
Mike,
Jeff.
in your website, you say you search the globe for the very best fruit, and you're trying to really continue to bring new ideas. What's the future looking like for Frutero? Are there more opportunities in the future? Were there more opportunities yesterday?
Absolutely. With Frutero, right now we make ice cream, but our vision is much more than that. It's just to bring these amazing tropical fruits to the U.S. Right now we do pints of ice cream. As we expand, we're going to do bars and pops, and then we're looking to bring that into other categories. My partner joked when he came to the U.S. that he said, "You guys only have apples and bananas here. There's so many amazing fruits from all over the U.S., and we want to bring that to consumers here."
Mm-hmm. You really do have a vision, don't you?
I hope so.
Since your dad was an eye doctor, you and your dad do have vision in common.
And my wife.
What's the website address for Frutero?
It's fruteroicecream.com, Frutero icecream.com. And we're at Whole Foods, ShopRite, and many more stores.
We've been speaking with Mike Weber, CEO and co-founder of Frutero here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. Back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Jeff Mack, Newmark, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, and Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer. I'd like to introduce Larry Stuardi, CEO of MRA Group. Larry, what is MRA Group? What are you guys doing?
MRA Group is the largest privately held healthcare and life science advisor, real estate developer in the Philadelphia region. We have 52 associates, and this is our 30th year.
Mm-hmm. Where you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
From the Philadelphia area. I moved around quite a bit, and I have 3 sisters, 2 older, 1 younger.
So you're the third of 4 kids with 3 sisters. And you mentioned when we were talking in the green room, you went to 9 different schools. Why did you go to 9 different schools?
Well, I had a single mother. She raising the 4 kids, and people like to get their rent paid. So we had difficulty with that. So it was not easy times.
Mm-hmm. So you got mom raising 4 kids, having problems paying the rent occasionally, and you're the only boy. What was the effect of all that on you?
Well, about 8 years old, I was man of the house. I was the one changing tires, taking out the trash, doing all the things. And at the same time, I was always out trying to earn a buck.
Mm-hmm. So you're 8 years old and you took on the responsibility of being the man in the house, evidently changing tires. Did anybody tell you to do that, or did you just take it on?
Well, from my perspective, no one told me, but I'm sure, my mother was very strong-willed, and we all had to pull our weight.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that aside from doing a lot of stuff around the house, being the man of the house, you started making money. How were you making money?
Started off early on collecting bottles, and there's a junkyard in Northeast Philadelphia. I'd take a wheelbarrow too, and they would give me a few bucks. I used to carry bags at the supermarket across the street from my house for a while, where help load the bags into the trunk and give you a quarter or whatever. So.
So you were selling bottles to the local junkyard. I got a question for you. How many dollars of real estate have you helped develop?
Several billion.
So from $1 or $2 for delivering bottles to the junkyard to several $1 billion of real estate. Who were your influences when you were a kid?
Well, of course, my mother, most importantly. And I was fortunate enough to have many people believe in me, probably when I didn't believe in myself, all the way through. And then I had my mother's boss at the time. She was a bookkeeper, a guy named Andy Steiner, who was an incredible human. And he took a real interest in me, along with Bill Rouse, who we all know at Philadelphia.
So, Larry, what did you learn from Bill that you take to work every day at MRA Group?
Well, Bill said to me one time, Larry, you know what your problem is? You want everyone to like you. And I took that to heart because I always try to find compromise in things. And I don't know if I've ever switched from that, but it probably comes from my growing up and moving around so many times.
What did you have to compromise on as a kid?
Pardon me?
What did you have to compromise on as a kid?
Well, you always have to compromise, especially when you're the new kid in the neighborhood and in order to make friends. So you're compromising as a kid, school books. I can't even begin to think of it. Growing up in Philadelphia public schools in my younger days.
Matthew?
Yeah, Larry, I'm struck by the story of moving so many times because it was a financial struggle to pay the rent. What did you understand about that as it was going on in your life?
When I was younger, I really didn't. I thought that was the way everybody lived for the most part. And, I just didn't comprehend really what was happening. As I got older, things started to stabilize a bit. But at that time it was,
How did you feel when you were packing your stuff up to move to the next house?
Excited about new adventures.
And you talked about counting out the change and what impact that had on you. How'd that make you feel?
We would sit on my mother's bed on a Sunday night and count out money to change to get through the week, to see what we could do. And that was tough. That made me aware that I had to do more to help my family.
And so that sense of you have to do more, does that stay with you? Does that drive you? Tell me about that.
It has been a different way. It became more of a community function. What led me into real estate was really, I look at it as economic development, and economic development lifts all boats. The rising tide lifts all boats. And that is how I've always viewed it. And that's been the thrill of it for me.
And you said earlier, consistent with what you just said, that it's about economic development and lifting all boats. You said it's not, you don't measure success by financial, you don't measure success financially, I think you said. How do you measure it?
You get to when you're younger, you do, as you're climbing that ladder. And as you get to a certain point where you no longer worry about paying your bills, you move on. Now it's time to reach down and help someone else up the ladder. And that's how I measure success, how I'm afforded the opportunity to do that.
And where did you learn that as a kid, that it was more important to help other people?
From other people helping me and my family.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, there are a lot of people donating to us. Always had hand-me-down clothes, not always, but there are always people that were willing to stop and lend a hand. I always respected that. I was amazed by it and appreciated it. And therefore, that's part of what we do. That's the makeup of MRA.
Frank?
So, Larry, let me go back for a minute. You said when you were a young boy, you went to 9 different schools. I got to think it's challenging, to say the least, to make friends and keep friends. Tell me about that. How did you cope with making friends?
Usually it was easy. Again, I always surrounded myself with people that were smarter than me, always tried to, that had always appreciated that, always liked people that took a different walk in life. the kid sitting alone at a table, I would sit down with. I always enjoyed that.
And you said that you were fortunate to have a lot of role models who saw something in you. What do you think they saw in you, Larry?
Energy, willingness to want to succeed and help others succeed.
And you told us chief among those was your mom, single mom, and you referred to her as amazing. What was amazing about your mom? That could take a whole day. Quite frankly, her intelligence, her inner beauty, her steadfastness, her willingness to do whatever it took to keep her family together and keep us going. And all of those impacted you how?
Well, I have a beautiful family. I have a great company with some great people, and all of that has come together. So your mom, those role models, those mentors, would they be proud of what you've accomplished today? I hope so, and what we're going to accomplish in the future. So yes, we keep going. I don't look at having accomplished a whole lot yet.
So I just have to ask you, when you're having a tough day, things aren't going as you want, what do you hear your mom say, and how does that help you run 52 associates at MRA Group?
I remember the one time she said, "Don't be a quitter," and that was and you weren't raised that way, and that is what that and look in the mirror. And I can tell you that for many times where I stopped and looked in the mirror and said, you can do this.
Larry, what have you learned from your three kids?
That I didn't understand what love was until they came along, and I learned how to be a father. That's something I had to learn.
What's the website address for MRA Group?
MRAgroup.net.
We've been speaking with Larry Stuardi, CEO of MRA Group, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Back in a moment, right after this quick break. Don't go away.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Kathy Morgan, president of ASTM International. Kathy, what is ASTM International? What are you folks up to?
ASTM International is a 125-year-old organization with 30,000 members around the world that are developing technical standards in 90 different industry sectors.
Wow. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I am from Springfield, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia, and I do not have any brothers or sisters, so just me.
What makes an only child special?
Well, I'd like to think every child is special, but maybe an only child has the unique features of all of the resources, all of the attention being diverted to them. Mm-hmm. Although it can be a bit lonely, I would say, growing up as an only child.
Mm-hmm. 8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you up to? What were you doing?
Most of my activities were related to music. I played violin for our orchestra. I was in community orchestras. I also had different singing activities. I was in different choral groups, pop groups, would sing for my church. Aside from that, it was more writing activities, working with the school yearbook, school newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you were pretty active as a kid. And Jeffrey, want to give me a hand?
Yeah, sure. So Kathy, tell us about mom and dad growing up. What was mom doing? What was dad doing?
Mom was a legal secretary until I was born, so she retired very young. Dad spent his entire career with General Electric as a maintenance engineer.
Mm-hmm. And who are you more like, mom or dad?
I actually think I'm a wonderful blend of both of them. They're very different in their approaches. My dad was very mechanical, very casual more in his approach, kind of a relaxed personality with a very strong work ethic. Mm-hmm. My mom, much more artsy and creative, prim and proper.
So how does that blend help you run the organization of this size as its leader?
Yeah, certainly I learned how to approach my mom and my dad. They were motivated by different things. So I had different approaches with my parents. And that certainly helped me learn how to interact with other people, whether they were colleagues, subordinates, colleagues, other leaders. Different strokes for different folks.
With 30,000 members, I can certainly understand you've got a diverse group of personalities to deal with. Jeffrey?
Did mom or dad influence you in becoming an engineer?
No, not really. Actually, my parents were very open to whatever I wanted to pursue. It was more teachers at school based on my aptitude for math and science that channeled me to engineering.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Frank.
So, Kathy, you said in the green room that an only child tends to get the center of attention all the time. And you said that could be good or bad. Was it good or bad for you? How did it impact you being an only child?
Again, it was both depending on the circumstances. My parents had no one else to watch. So certainly everything I did went noticed.
So let me ask you this. As a student, you had a pretty ambitious curriculum. You're a chemical engineering degree. You have a master's degree. I would think you were studying with mostly men growing up. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's absolutely fair to say.
So as one of the few women studying with men, how did that impact you while you're studying?
But, I'm not sure that I gave it a lot of thought at the time. But in looking back on it, I know I worked extremely hard. It was a very demanding curriculum. And thankfully I had good friends at college that, helped me through it and we did it together.
So what's more important, or what do you use more, your chemical engineering degree or your master's in business and safety standards and regulations today?
Well, I think from my degree in chemical engineering, really what engineers are taught is a methodical approach, a way of thinking, of looking at something from all different angles, anticipating, and then analyzing results. And I certainly do utilize that dealing with our technical members. Probably the MBA has been very valuable as well, though, just from business acumen and running a business.
So little did you know how much you would need both in running your business today.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Yeah, Kathy, you said you played violin growing up, which isn't the easiest of instruments. Why violin?
Well, actually, I'd hoped to play flute and then trumpet, but both of those had enough players in the band. So they asked me if I'd be willing to consider the orchestra and play the violin. And I thought, okay, why not? We'll give it a whirl. And that's what I did. And it worked out perfect.
And you said more broadly that you like violin and singing and all music. What was it about the musical activities that you enjoyed?
Oh, I just really enjoyed how the end product would come together, because we would all go off and practice our own individual parts. And sometimes they sounded good, sometimes not so good. But when you brought them back together and blended them, it was a beautiful result.
And I'm going to come to I'm going to get to the result in a minute, but how do you keep yourself going? Like, as you're a kid working on the individual part, how do you keep yourself going and practicing while you're waiting for that end product?
Well, I think you know that the practice is needed because there are others relying on you to work at it and get it right so that we can get that beautiful result when it comes together. So it's not a solo sport. So knowing that, I think, motivates you to try even harder.
And you had someone you had a really good person to help you practice, right?
I did. Yes. My neighbor across the street was a conductor for a time for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and very talented man musically. And he would certainly help me if my timing or tone was off and he heard it.
and explain to me how you became the kid that was willing to go to the orchestra conductor, that wasn't like the shy kid that was like, oh God, I don't want to hear this professional conductor hear me play my lousy violin. Where'd that come from?
I will say the first time I went across the street after being paged, I was going with my tail between my legs, somewhat ashamed of my poor playing and that it needed that much correction. But I learned he was just so patient and understood I was a beginner, and I got better each time I saw him. So the trip became much more pleasant.
So as you talk about those processes, the process of learning with him and the process of going from practicing and maybe not sounding so good to everything coming together and everything sounding good, that process and learning, what do you take from all of that you bring with you to running an organization today?
Well, I think we're not going to always get it right. And there's room for improvement. And there are other people that can help us. As a CEO, I don't have all the answers, but I do have a wonderful group of people to work with. I have support systems and mentors, and it's a learning process. And so you got to jump in, try and adjust, if it's not going the way it should be.
So is it fair to say that you're walking across the street to the conductor actually kind of influences who you are as a boss today to the people on your team?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. One of the things that I really try to do with my staff is have them understand what role they play on the team, why what they're doing is important to the success of our organization, because that just gives them a very fulfilling, and rewarding aspect to their role. And that's very important to me. And I hope I've been able to do that with our team.
What's very important to you?
Making sure that everyone knows what their role is and why doing it well contributes to the success of our organization.
Why do you care about that?
I care about that because it's going to help them to have a more rich experience. They're going to feel better about what they do. They're going to feel ownership in the organization and excited about sharing the excitement of the results.
Mm-hmm. And how does that make you feel?
Oh, that makes me feel terrific. I'm responsible for growing the next generation of leadership at our organization. Mm-hmm. So when I can get them excited and they understand it, I know I'm leaving it in good hands.
What's the website address for this organization known as ASTM International?
ASTM.org.
We've been speaking with Kathy Morgan, president of ASTM International. Jeff, can you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of hanging out with?
What a great show today, Herb. We had Ken Davies, founder and CEO of City Fitness. We had Mike Weber, CEO and founder of Frutero. We had Larry Stuardi, the president and CEO of MRA Group, and just now Kathy Morgan, president of ASTM International.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Jeff Mack, Newmark, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, and Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, for giving me a hand structure in the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today.